The concept of being lonely, or more specifically, being reclusive or misunderstood, is something that horror has embraced since its inception.
I am utterly alone.
On the topic melancholy and the romantic movement, William Savage writes, "Indeed, as idealists and visionaries, at least in their own eyes, romantics were condemned to the loneliness produced by the solitude of their position. They saw the world as out of step with them. The world saw exactly the opposite. Death alone could free them from a life in which sorrow and loss were constant themes." Strange how much this sounds like it could be describing the monsters of the old Universal horror movies. Quasimodo and the Phantom, excluded from society due to their appearance, living in isolation, easily becoming bitter. The Frankenstein monster, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, all through external forces, become that which we fear and misunderstand, and therefore ostracize and seek to destroy. Dracula and the mummy Imhotep, we could say, were of course also romantic loners, but with purposeful agency and maybe even selfish desires, as they sought to rejoin society and their loved ones at any cost. And then there is the Gill-Man, aka the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Science couldn't explain it, but there it was, alive in the deep, deep waters of the Amazon. A throwback to a creature that had existed 100 million years ago, immensely strong and destructive.
Universal's lost golden age monster, a being out of time and unlike any witnessed before or since.
In a bath without a room for the creature.
Yeah, unless you count those guys. The Gill-Man is an amphibious humanoid living in the deepest, darkest part of the Amazon River, and is heavily implied as being the lost of his kind.
I'm Mr. Lonely.
Of course, the locals are aware of the creature and its violent ways.
Many years ago, I heard this legend on the river. A very old native tell me of a man who lived underwater, but she was crazy.
And therefore, most would rather steer clear of its domain, lest they meet their demise for entering its territory.
There are many strange legends in the Amazon. Even I, Lucas, have heard the legend of a man-fish.
That is until a fossil discovery leads a group of scientists towards the lagoon where this monster dwells. Where its journey into alienation, otherness, dejection, fear, and, for lack of a better term, dehumanization was just starting.
I am not a human being! I am an animal! Cold-blooded!
With the Gill-Man's first appearance, 1954, as the creature from the Black Lagoon, our monster must contend not only with people entering its domain, bringing with them strange devices and weapons that they use the very first chance they get, and, when weapons fail to work, the human interlopers resort to poisoning the whole lagoon, causing untold damage to the ecosystem, all in order to capture the creature for their nefarious purposes.
What inspired you to imprison this beautiful creature you took from its Amazonian home?
Money!
Now, yes, it is true, up until this point the creature had killed some people. Who knows how many people, in fact? We see a couple die in the film and hear about people not returning from the lagoon.
My boys call it the Black Lagoon, a paradise. Only they say nobody has ever come back to prove it.
But those were people who entered its territory and essentially immediately started causing trouble there. We don't just go out killing animals for similar reactions, do we?
A zoo under fire for shooting and killing an endangered gorilla instead of tranquilizing him. After the animal
You probably should ignore that.
Okay, so maybe we do. But I think that says more about humans than it does about non-humans. That being said, I want to note that I doubt the creature is, quote-unquote, a dumb animal. The creature shows clear signs of sapient intelligence. It understands these people are here to some degree, do it harm. It understands that they are trying to escape, and therefore it stops them. And it understands that one of the humans is a tad different from the others. And maybe the Gill-Man is even, in some way, attracted to her.
I like you a lot.
In the film, men, good bastions of manliness, heroism, academia, and great deeds, are killed without thought or hesitation by the creature. But not Julie Adams' character, Kay Lawrence. She gets the whole kidnapping treatment instead. And maybe this is just because the creature is, most likely, very, very lonely.
It's just that I'm very lonely and I would like to give you a bath.
But of course, this is an old thing in film and media. Quite the trope, in fact. Beasts and monsters are perversions of nature, and they prey on metaphorical purity, i.e., women. Again, I would like to bring up that these films are from the 1950s, and women are objects to be rescued with no agency themselves. But of course, the evil, not-a-person fish-man, but still kind of human creature, must be stopped before he corrupts this purity, and so gets wounded during her rescue. But unfortunately, it doesn't end here for him. It is in the sequel film, 1955's Revenge of the Creature, that humans again enter the lagoon, this time for the sole goal of capturing the Gill-Man.
He won't rest easy till he's got it in the tank back at Ocean Harbor.
Further causing destruction to the local fauna and flora, all in the name of science. The same science that believes in putting chimps in clothes, cats and rats in cages, and Clint Eastwood in a lab coat.
Science rules.
But worse than that, it sounds like the creature's captivity is going to be a way of simply making money.
On this, the first day of public exhibit of the world-famous Gill-Man.
Ah, the exploitation of nature for capital gain. How very King Kong-esque of you. Imagine a creature showing clear signs of intelligence, shackled and thrown into captivity, charging people money to see them, and still somehow thinking, you are the good guys? Just don't look up human zoos, whatever you do.
I'm sad now.
Now, from here on out, I feel it would be wrong to call the creature a monster. It is a victim, a prisoner. It is afraid, and while being surrounded by countless eyes, is actually more alone than ever.
Such a lonely day, and it's mine.
And soon as the experiments and tests start, the bounds of human cruelty are brought to the forefront yet again.
As he reaches for it, you're to say stop into your throat microphone. He won't know what it means, so I'll condition him by shocking him with a bull prod. Right?
Right.
Any actions on the creature's part from this point forward feel justified, as its loneliness and feeling of isolation grows. Especially since the scientific evidence is showing more and more that the creature is more human than fish.
No correlation with the fish sample. Every test, every reaction, it just misses being human.
Not that that has ever stopped people in power over others in the past. The road to hell is after all paved in good and shitty intentions. And of course, when the creature escapes, we see that there is no evidence of hostility, except for those who mean to do him harm. We in fact see him ignore a helpless child and her mother to focus instead on escaping the area in order to reach the ocean. But this second film is called Revenge of the Creature, so therefore, revenge must occur, stalking and observing the two lead scientists that have been studying him, leading to a very public kidnapping of, yes, you guessed it, the Maiden Fair. Which in turn leads to the status quo being upheld and the creature getting shot to smithereens yet again. The third and final entry in the Gill-Man saga, 1956's The Creature Walks Among Us, again revolves around people hunting the creature, who this time is hiding out in the Florida Everglades. But now the scientists want to take this capture even further. They have this idea to literally change the creature.
Gentlemen, the creature can be changed. We can make the giant step and bring a new species into existence.
Based on his blood or something, I don't know. I myself am no scientist, but these people have test tubes and fancy machines, so I don't know.
Can you verify?
Hey, you gonna wait for me?
And there it is again, our mandatory 1950s lady.
I'm really feeling sorry for myself now, aren't I?
At least third time around, the misogyny is part of the story and not just part of the social zeitgeist.
Don't start accusing
You're
me.
my wife, Marcia. Conduct yourself that way.
But more on that later. For now, back to the tragic creature, who is not only being shot at with spear guns, but this time around is also set on fire. At this point, you wouldn't think it could get much worse for our creature, but you would be wrong. With his gills destroyed by the fire, being held captive by the humans, and slowly suffocating, the creature gets, essentially, stripped of his identity.
He's hideous.
The humans open his lungs, technically saving his life, but also damning him to this purgatory of captivity. Impressed by the creature's new appearance, after most of his skin was burnt off, his captors dressed the creature in human clothes.
His sensitivity to pain is increasing. He needs some amount of protection.
I think they're ashamed of how human and how naked he looks now.
How much nakeder could you be?
Watch and learn.
At this point, a merciful death would have been better for this profoundly unique entity, as escape via water is futile now, seeing as the creature lost its ability to breathe underwater. The Gill-Man, being ripped from its world both physically and mentally, is forced to spend its days living above water, covered in badly made clothing, stuck in a large cage, only to be able to dream of returning to his home. But do you remember earlier when I mentioned misogyny and control has a part to play in the third film? Lee Snowden's character, Marcia Barton, being held under the thumb of her husband.
Don't ever try to leave me. Don't ever try to make a fool of me.
Worthless, useless.
You'll become a cheap little tramp.
And almost all men around her, according to what I see.
No. Tell me again.
Marcia Barton shares a certain parallel with the creature. Both are being treated unfairly, both are to be controlled, and both are living under the tyranny of the same man, Dr. William Barton. And I think the creature sort of agrees with me on this, as there are times when he acts to defend those around him, including Marcia, and some sheep too. But when Dr. Barton attempts to frame the creature for a murder he has committed, the creature escapes, going on a destructive rampage as he searches for the true evildoer, Dr. Barton, leaving the innocent unharmed, because never did the creature seek to unnecessarily harm those around himself, only causing damage to maintain his freedom and the freedom of being left alone. And perhaps at the end of it all, that's what he got. Does his returning to the water guarantee freedom? Will he even survive the swim to wherever he is going? One thing is for sure, the creature has shown us that humans and monsters can be quite different in how they treat one another.
Didn't you just love the picture? I did. But I just felt so sorry for the creature. At the end.
Sorry for the creature? Why'd you want him to marry the girl?
He was kind of scary looking, but he wasn't really all bad. I think he just craved a little affection. You know, a sense of being loved and needed and wanted.
That's a very interesting point of view. That's a very interesting point of view.
Very interesting point of view. That's a very interesting point of view. That's a very interesting point of view.